Hi, I'm Kevin Cummings. At Investors Bank, we believe in helping our local neighborhoods and improving the lives of all we serve. We're a different bank that makes a difference for our employees, clients, and communities. That's why we're proud to support public television and the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Investors Bank, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, Fedway Associates, the New Jersey Re-Entry Corporation, and by Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. Promotional support provided by hipnewjersey.com. Live hard, work hard, play hard. You're from New Jersey, and so are we. And by Jaffe Communications, where business, media, and government converge in New Jersey.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
We're pleased to welcome David Cay Johnston, who is the author of The Making of Donald Trump. It's a bestseller and also a Pulitzer Prize-winning journal. It's good to see you, David.
Good to be here.
We're doing this in the spring of 2017, and we are not a program that looks at where the president is today, but we try to make sense of who he is as a man, as a person, as a leader. What did you conclude in this book? Because it's a fascinating book at the core.
Understand that I've known Donald for almost 30 years and have followed him all these years, even the years I wasn't writing about him. The minute I met Donald, I thought he was an absolutely fascinating character. I met him in June of 1988 in Atlantic City. And I said, this guy is going to be a significant force in American culture. He understands how to manipulate the news media. He is full of bravado and nonsense. And he's eager to put himself out there. He's P.T. Barnum. He's our P.T. Barnum. And what astonished me very quickly was finding out from his competitors like Steve Wynn and casino executives and law enforcement people and even some big gamblers, they all said Donald doesn't know anything about the casino business. And I'm like, what? Man owns 2 casinos. How can he not know this? And then I started talking to him about it and began to realize he didn't know anything about the casino business. It was all bluster. And that's what you see in him as president. Donald Trump doesn't know a Sunni from a Shia and why it matters to our policy in the Middle East.
He convinced an awful lot of people to vote for him.
He certainly did. And he's masterful as a salesman about issues where he wants to focus you. And he's very good at getting the news media confused and distracted and covering what he wants. And we often don't see reports pointing out that in a 90-second period, Steve, you can see Donald in videotape say something and then deny he said it.
That's a skill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to pull it off and get away with it. Donald is, in my view, the greatest con artist in the history of the world. He's president.
Is it a character issue?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, Donald is a man who, you know, all of his biographers, the great late Wayne Barrett, who was the first reporter onto him. I was second. Tim O'Brien.
He was with the Village Voice for many years.
Yes. Tim O'Brien, whom I worked with, and we were at the New York Times, Gwenda Blair, everybody, Harry Hurt, they will all tell you the same thing. Donald has no moral core. There is nothing, there's no moral core at all. There's no philosophy except the greatness of Donald Trump. And it's astonishing he's gotten as far as he has, and I think it says a lot about the news business.
So let me ask you this. At the core, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. People will decide for themselves. But when Donald Trump sees, we're not trying to be timely at all because this will be repeated many times, when he sees those children, right, that are in Syria and decides, I'm moved by this. Yes, there were previous statements he made that said we should not be involved. He says he's moved emotionally, that anyone would be, and decides to act. How is that a man with no sense of soul?
Because Donald Trump, at the very same time, and my organization, DC Report, reported this, his administration was approving the poisoning of American children. Scientists at the EPA said you should not continue to use a particular insecticide. It makes kids stupid. It's a neurotransmitter that interferes with neurotransmission and reduces kids' IQs. And so Donald Trump...
Excuse me, you're not correlating that to what Assad is doing.
Absolutely. Let me explain why. Steve, hear me out. There have been numerous chemical attacks by Assad. Assuming Assad did this, we don't actually know that for sure. There have been numerous chemical attacks, and you don't make foreign policy on the basis of your emotional reaction. That's why we spend well over $100 billion a year on a huge intelligence apparatus so that we can make sound judgments. Not that we always do, but you don't do them on emotional reactions. But this administration ignored the science and said we're going to allow this poison that the science says makes children in the womb and small children less intelligent. There's no rhyme nor reason what Donald does.
Why would he do that?
Oh, I don't think Donald...
He has a 10-year-old son.
Yeah,
He cares about his son, and oh, come on. Listen, you roll your eyes at that?
Steve, Donald Trump is a man who has publicly humiliated his wife, who his own children previously, now they're close to him, said they would have nothing to do with him.
His wife now?
No, his first wife and his second wife. And his own children wrote themselves, they would have nothing to do with their father. Then they grew up and then they went to work for Daddy, who paid a lot better than anybody else, and became very loyal to him. And my point is that Donald Trump is someone to whom everything is a transaction. Everything is a transaction.
Relationships?
Yes, everything is transactional. Everything. And all of his biographers, you could have them all in here as a panel, and they would all tell you, yeah, everything is transactional.
What redeeming quality do you see him?
I admire Donald's incredible brilliance at developing himself as a brand name. I mean, he's the gold champion for making yourself. I make my living off being a brand name. I'm not, I'm a candle. He's the sun over here. He's really been masterful at that. He's focused on it. He's worked on it very hard. When he decides he wants to do something and he's focused on it, he works right at it. And you'll notice he ran this very unconventional campaign. Hillary Clinton couldn't figure out how to respond to it. Well, one of the basics of, love and war is you got to pay attention to how the other side's playing the game.
He played it better.
And he played it very well. He played it very well.
Let me, you were on with our good friend Rachel Maddow, and there was a lot made about what was going to be released as it relates to Donald Trump's tax returns. People will decide. We're going to go longer on this, guys. I see the signals. People will decide how much was released and how relevant it was. Right. But you understand more than most about Donald Trump's finances. What should we understand about it?
Well, the 1 year we have that return for, 2005, is almost certainly his best year in a number of years. And
best years meaning in terms of
income. The amount of income that he had, yeah. It almost certainly is his best year. We know that his minimum annual income on average for the prior 10 years was $81.5 million. So he's had a huge income. I don't think anybody would question that Donald has an enormous income. Donald is not a wealth builder, though. Donald's basic business deal, which applies to every deal I've ever looked at except one, the Trump University, is he puts up no money. He gets a fee up front, either from a loan or from a partner, and he then draws cash out as fast as he can. So while other casino owners in Atlantic City were upgrading their properties and their software and doing other things, Donald was just pulling money out of the place as fast as he could. He's not a wealth builder. He's a cash extractor.
How is he sustained, not just the brand, but the businesses, if in fact he's got these flaws, serious flaws?
Yeah, well, first of all,
he came back from the abyss financially from those failures in Atlantic City, the helicopter, the plane, the this, the that.
So what happened in Atlantic City? He got the New Jersey Casino Control Commission to take his side against his bankers, all but 2 of whom were outside of New York State. 70 banks, 2 of them are in the state, the rest aren't. And if the government takes your side against your bankers and says you're going to have to pay back close to $1 billion, you can come back from that. He hires good, talented people. He doesn't keep them around as soon as they stand up to him, but he does hire them. He has a good eye for spotting talent.
Yeah.
And he is intensely aware of how to manipulate politicians to get the favors he wants. when he built his first major project. He turned the derelict Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt at Grand Central Station. 40 years, no property taxes. That's effectively a gift of $400 million of welfare for the tax. I agree it's a smart deal. It's terrible public policy, but it was a smart deal for him, and he got it because Mayor Abe Beame was very close with his father.
Well, let's say this. Fast forward. He will say he uses those skills. He will use those skills to make great deals for America, you say?
What deal has he made so far? I mean, he hasn't had no legislative accomplishments.
As we speak, at the end of April 2017.
Through the first roughly 100 days, Donald had no legislative accomplishments whatsoever. He said things that make no sense because he isn't familiar with politics on the inside. When he didn't get the changes he wanted in the Affordable Care Act, he said, well, I'll make a deal with the Democrats. You know, and I'm the Easter Bunny. It's just not going to happen.
So, tell me how you, by the way, you've interviewed him face to face?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Many times.
I tried to give him tax advice once, and he couldn't follow my advice.
Yeah, I read that in there. He likes you?
No, Donald only likes those journalists who print what he says and don't do what good journalists do.
Do you think he follows?
Check the record.
Sorry for interrupting. Do you think he follows what you say about him?
At least some, because of some of the comments he's made publicly, yes.
Yes. So, how about this? How do you think this is going to play out with him in terms of his, not just persona, but how I'm a student of leadership. I'm a student of how people evolve as leaders and what they learn. Could you see him learning from the mistakes that all presidents make, all leaders make, and you know what, making the adjustments?
Steve, Donald wants to be the greatest president in history. Right? He wants to be the fifth person in stone up there at Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
But he doesn't have the management skill and the political knowledge to pull it off.
Does he have the emotional intelligence, as Daniel Goldman likes to say?
Yeah, he certainly has some skills. I don't know if they're emotional intelligence in identifying weak points with other people and how to get them to go where he wants them to go. That's why.
Is he introspective?
No. No, Donald is a life unexamined. He's absolutely a life unexamined.
Okay. So you're saying this is it?
I don't think this is likely to get much better. And by the way, don't forget that Donald has not done the work. Out of 700 important federal appointments, he's made about 100
as we speak
at the end of April. There are federal agencies that don't have any politicals, as they're called, who make the policy decisions. We don't have ambassadors in almost every country in the world. We don't have U.S. attorneys because
where's
he
the
fired
silver
them all.
lining? I'm not letting you out of here without the silver lining. Where is it?
I have a hard time. The silver lining is it may be that first with the Tea Party movement and now with the resistance movement, that we are undergoing an awakening of our democracy. For too long, since Watergate particularly, people have said, I don't need to do with politics. And people are now recognizing they need to be involved in politics. I have another book coming out about Donald Trump at the end of the year. And then my next book that I've delayed is I've written an entirely new federal tax code. You don't have to file a tax return in almost all cases. It'll be simple, efficient. It'll be less than 100 pages long, not the 6,500 pages of the current federal tax code.
David, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Always looking for the silver lining. Check you out next time. Thank you.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We're here at Kessler Foundation. I just was honored to moderate a very compelling panel discussion on MS research. Rodger DeRose, who heads up the foundation, let me ask you, you just spoke to this audience. There are a few folks still here. There's some other folks outside with desserts, but I want to get you before you go out there because you just spoke to this audience about the impact of this MS research and why it matters so much, particularly to those who are suffering and dealing with MS. Talk about that.
Well, you know, Steve, I think when you're talking about research, rather than being an academic center that's doing research for research's sake and putting it into publications and ending it there, Our research goes beyond that. It goes in terms of winning a grant, it goes into doing the research with patients and actually getting it into practice, and so that you're actually changing a life in terms of the types of issues related to MS that we focus on, which are cognition-related issues, deficits of being able to think, learn, remember, to communicate. These are all the types of issues that MS patients have after they suffer a series of lesions on the brain. And we do pre-testing with patients and we do post-testing after we've actually tried an intervention to see what has actually changed in the brain or in the spinal cord column so that we can actually show the impact of our work.
One of the things that struck me, and I'll have Rodger talk about this, is that 2 of the 6 participants tonight are actually people who have participated in studies. Talk about the significance, Rodger, of people who are dealing with MS actually participating in the research and why it matters so much, not just to them, but to those with MS and future patients, dare I say.
You know, it really is a double benefit, Steve. You mentioned the impact that it has in terms of the patient benefiting from the interventions that we're working on to bring forward to the next generation of MS patients and to get into practice, not only here at Kessler or the select sites that own all of the Kessler-type hospitals around the country, but the world of medical rehabilitation. So that's number one. Number two is that I think that when a patient enters into a trial with research with us, they know that what they're doing is they're helping the next generation of patients. And because this is a disease that has a hereditary component to it, it might even be their own family member down the road. It might be a child of theirs. It might be a grandchild of theirs. So they are committed to really helping that next generation while benefiting from the impact of our research today.
So much, and finally, so much of the discussion we had tonight in this panel forum was about the quality of life. Why was that so compelling and important?
You know, I think, Steve, that quality of life are elements that they talked about tonight. It's not just physical, it's not just mental, it's really being engaged with the community, with your family, with society. And one of the areas we talked about tonight was jobs, for example. Return to work, stay at work, be active.
For patients with MS.
Patients with MS. Don't leave the job just because you have a disability and you have the ability to collect a Social Security disability insurance check. You really should be thinking about staying engaged, staying cognitively engaged in terms of working your mental capabilities so that the disease is pushed off as far as possible into the future. But it's all about feeling good about yourself and what you can do in terms of your own life.
Thank you, Rodger.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Thank you.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are talking sports injuries, everything you also need to know about orthopedics with our good friend Dr. Vincent McInerney, who is orthopedic surgeon and director of sports medicine at Seton Hall University. Doctor, let me ask you this. We've seen each other at a lot of basketball games, particularly Seton Hall University basketball games, and you've dealt with all kinds of athletes, all kinds of injuries. Are there more sports injuries than ever before, or are they being detected more than ever before?
I think it's a combination of both, Steve. There are more. Our players are bigger in basketball, taller, faster, and there have been some rules changes over the years, or at least lack of reinforcement of them, particularly with dribbling. And if you see that people palm the ball, they'll run maybe 5 or 6 steps. Sometimes you and I count them, and we know that they're not exactly 3. The speed and the ability to play is different. If you remember the old days with the Boston Celtics, John Havlicek dribbling down the court, and he had to look at the ball. You can't dribble the ball the way you and I were taught without looking at it. Now, players can palm it and be looking all around the court and running with the ball. Very different speed. I think you and I both recognize that. If we looked at the old films and now we'd say there's a difference. So I think rules changes play a lot in that, as well as the size and the agility of the players.
But in terms of even younger athletes, all right, those of us who have children who are involved in youth sports, we're very conscious of the potential for injury. But what is it that we could or couldn't do, should or shouldn't be doing as parents while not micromanaging the process to the point where we don't let them do anything in sports?
Well, I think that what I would suggest to you is that we can do things. Parents have a great say in the rules and regulations, and we've allowed them to get lax. I'm particularly nervous about young women, young girls. Soccer. Soccer right now with all the heading, it's not just a seasonal sport that you and I played. We'd stop and then move ahead to another sport. They play year-round. And the subconcussive injuries to the head are incredible, particularly in women. They don't have the neck strength. In many categories, women are stronger than men. About 80% of the time, I hate to tell you this, but 20%.
I'm not surprised.
20%, they're actually not very good, and that's with their head and neck, the concussion, and with knee injuries. So just focusing on head and neck, we just had our New Jersey Athletic Trainers meeting this Sunday and Monday, and we had several talks about the brain, billions of cells and trillions of connections, how delicate it is, and yet we're allowing it to be struck on a repetitive nature, much more than you and I ever had. So parents can say, no, we're not going to allow it. We are going to help get legislation if we need to, or go to governing bodies to say, you need to change the rules. Young children should chest the ball, no headers. They can get chest protectors if they want on them. You get hit in the head, if it's totally accidental, if someone kicks the ball and you just couldn't get out of the way, but if you do head it, you'd be out of the game. So those are things that we can do to help.
But Vince, I got to tell you, I was watching, I don't want to out any particular parents or media entities, but I was watching a sports program. It was a program about youth football. You know the program I'm talking about. And I'm watching these kids bang the heck out of each other, and they were looking at it like it was helmet to helmet, and it's this Friday night show that they were doing. These kids were killing each other, and the parents and the coaches were like, go at each other, go at each other. And these kids were getting knocked out, and the parents and the coaches were pushing them to get back in. I was hoping, I think it was down in Texas or it was in the southern part of the country. This is nothing negative about the South in particular, but that's got to be the exception. I'm praying and hoping it is.
It is to a certain extent. In southern areas, football is king. And there's Friday night lights, the things of that nature. And the parents lose it. They're going vicariously through their children. They can't do that anymore. Children need to be empowered to say, I don't want to do that.
But these are kids at 10 years old.
All wrong. Kids love to play touch football and flag football. If you put them together, they'd rather do that. I can tell you this. We've done that. We've asked children. They don't like to get hit in the head. It hurts. It's not fun. It's bad. And it is detrimental to these young children, the developing brain. They even had information on about marijuana the other day about how bad it is. The American Pediatric Association said because of the developing brain. Well, look what we're doing with concussive injuries. That's incredible. We never had anything like that. Those rules need to be changed. I was taking care of the Boston Bruins, 81-82 with Bert Zarens and Carter Rowe. God rest Carter's soul. Wonderful people up in Boston. I was training up there, and there were no helmets. People said, well, you're going to ruin the game if you put on helmets. Best thing that ever happened to hockey was helmets.
Maybe because they couldn't see the players.
Yeah, well, that's true. They couldn't see their face, you know. But it was not right. And these people are hurt for life. Their families are destroyed, everything else by these concussive injuries. So concussions are real. They're dangerous. They can be stopped. Talk about football. Get rid of the kickoff. 50% less injuries in the NFL now.
Because of the speed at which the people on the kickoff team are coming at those who are on the receiving team and the collisions that take place.
Absolutely. And the players will even tell you they'd rather not even have the kickoff because you don't even need it. It's one of the most dangerous plays in any sports anywhere.
But the NFL does it because?
It's popular. It looks interesting. They've made some changes, though. They realize that now it really needs to be changed. So there's 50% less kickoffs. Therefore, there's 50% less injuries. The study predicted exactly what you and I would have predicted. You don't run it back, you don't get hurt. So this is not part of the game that should be going on there.
Talk about the importance of medical education. We're here at MD Advantage taping this. They are very much involved in the EJI Edward J. Ill Awards.
medical education is a major focus, scholarships for medical students. Talk about the importance of medical education.
Well, medical education now is changing rapidly, as you and I can guess, with the evolving technology. And we are able to do things virtual reality. We don't need to have necessarily a cadaver lab. You do it in virtual reality. Some of your surgeries are being trained that way with robotics and other methods. Yesterday, we did 4 robotic surgeries on knees and hips up at St. Joseph's Hospital and Regional Medical Center in Patterson.
It is changing orthopedics.
Absolutely, game changer. The precision of the cuts that we make now, it's like an old-fashioned diamond cutter who cuts the diamond perfectly. You can almost not even see anything. We cut it again perfectly with the robotic surgery. It's that precise. Same prosthesis goes in, but the cuts are so precise, and we believe that this is going to lead to great longevity in the total joint arena, but also in other areas that we have. Stem cells are coming. They're here. There are ways we're doing it gently now. We're still trying to figure out exactly when to do it. Platelet-rich proteins, those are the PRP injections people get. Again, slowly coming, but it's here. We're going to be creating organs. We're going to be growing ligaments. This is exciting. This is a wonderful area. The technology is terrific.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Steve.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Investors Bank, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, Fedway Associates, the New Jersey Re-Entry Corporation, and by Choose New Jersey, transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.
Home to some of the world's leading food companies, New Jersey has a rich history in the food industry. Today, New Jersey has a thriving $100 billion food and agriculture sector that's growing every day. We're home to thousands of food manufacturers, research facilities, and distribution centers. Food companies benefit from our strategic location, affordable space, and talented workforce. Whether you make it, bake it, or innovate it, New Jersey is the place to be. To learn more, visit choosenj.com.